Remember when Mark Zuckerberg rebranded all of Facebook into Meta and had a whole new redirection for the company around VR?
Starting today, our company is now Meta.
For a while, big tech companies and all online brands are pushing out this whole Metaverse thing and the push to Web3 and how all of our lives are now going to be conducted through the new Metaverse.
Today, we're going to talk about the Metaverse. Imagine you put on your glasses or headset and you're instantly in your home space.
There was a lot of talk about how your personal life is now going to be sort of tied into this whole Metaverse thing, and weirdly enough, they were trying to tie it into NFTs and crypto and whatever, right? Then all of a sudden, all the talks about the Metaverse and crypto, it all just sort of stopped, and now we're all talking about generative AI.
We're making Meta AI even smarter with our new open source Llama 3.2 models.
Let's take a step back for a second though, because there are some things I found really interesting about this all. Out of all the promises of the Metaverse, there was one that I found really fascinating that they were showing off in this presentation. And it was, remote work through the Metaverse. And till this day, I just keep thinking about it.
Let's take a look at what working in the Metaverse will be like. Imagine if you could be at the office without the commute. You would still have that sense of presence, shared physical space, those chance interactions that make your day all accessible from anywhere. Now imagine that you have your perfect work setup and you can actually do more than you could in your regular work setup. And on top of all that, you can keep wearing your favorite sweatpants.
A couple of years ago, Meta, then called Facebook, had their whole Facebook Connect, where they rebranded the company into Meta and showed off all their new concepts within VR, and that included Meta Horizons, their new creative development programs, and of course, they had an entire section about online work in the Metaverse.
But I'm genuinely optimistic about work in the Metaverse. We know from the last couple of years that a lot of people can effectively work from anywhere. So giving everyone the tools to be present, no matter where they are, whether as a hologram sitting next to you in a physical meeting or in a discussion taking place in the Metaverse, that's going to be a game changer.
It's been 2 years since then, and as of now, no one's working in the Metaverse. No one's really talking about the Metaverse, and if anything, companies want you back in the office. This was something I really wanted to talk about for a while, and I was kind of worried that it was already sort of done and gone. The Meta Connect recently just happened, and they're pushing more for AR rather than VR.
Right, this isn't pass-through. This is the physical world with holograms overlaid on it. It is a completely new kind of display architecture.
The Apple Vision Pro came out, and they're trying to get more into the AR technology, but they want it to be rebranded as an Apple type of AR.
Introducing Apple Vision Pro. The era of spatial computing is here.
Now, with new technology coming out and more pushes towards AR rather than VR, I actually kind of want to come back to this whole concept and really touch down upon why the whole VR office or Metaverse office was not going to happen and never will happen. Here's a question. How many remote work meetings can you go through without having one person have somewhat technical difficulties or something kind of going wrong with their computer? And the thing is, you don't need to be a tech literate 90-year-old to have some sort of problem with your computers. I also really like what Hank Green here said on Threads. He called it the digital commute. The idea of you're almost anxious 5 minutes before a remote meeting because you're wondering whether or not you can log in properly or your laptop's going to function as required. Now, knowing about all those tech hiccups and little bumps in the road, let's add one new piece of hardware to that entire mess. So it's not enough that your desktop is giving you problems, or Teams is acting in a way that's a little bit funky. Now you have to worry about running VR software using a VR hardware headset and also make sure you're still productive or you're not glitching out during meetings. Think about that one coworker who's always coming to you because he's having tech problems or laptop problems. And now also have the extra layer of running a 3D video game environment on top of that as well. Not to mention, VR headsets can be uncomfortable to wear for long periods of time. They can cause motion sickness if you're not used to these 3D environments. And there are limitations on how you interact with your VR or AR environment. There's also the question of employees who are only in the metaverse, how they're going to interact with employees who are only physically at the office versus employees who are wearing AR goggles and aren't in either. Plus, there's the question of how many people want to spend an hour or two in a VR metaverse office and then have to deal with the raccoon face after, right? And all this extra hassle for what exactly? As of writing, a Meta Quest 3 costs about $650.99 Canadian dollars, and the newly announced Meta Quest 3S is about $399 Canadian. It's about 300 USD. And let's just say some forward-thinking company wants to get all employees equipped with new Meta Quest 3S system. And maybe they got everybody running actually a Meta Quest 2, or they got discounted prices on all their hardware. But that's still going to be a lot of money because now you're equipping everybody with a laptop, VR headset, and your productivity software. And the question becomes, how does this make anyone's job easier? I understand some people want that extra screen interface with them, but a lot of people are just happy enough to work on a laptop. And whether you're using the front-facing cameras on your Meta Quest 3 or Meta Quest 3S, or maybe perhaps the AR features, most people are not gonna have any extra productivity here with this new functionality. Also, the interface is gonna be a big problem as well. Juggling AR and VR windows is still kind of awkward right now, and some people are already struggling to just maintain 15 to 20 tabs on their internet browser, never mind trying to use finger tracking that may or may not be moving windows around in a way that's accurate or ready to hit the market yet. Typing, meanwhile, is really cumbersome. VR typing, points and click, is completely useless in effect. AR or VR keyboards remove that tactile sensation, so you don't know if your fingers are actually striking keys and you're typing the things out you actually want to type out. It's going to make more people make mistakes and just submit sloppy work. Does AR or VR make it easier to shift through a bunch of Excel files or be able to edit certain cells in your Excel spreadsheet? It might be able to help project maybe two up onto the screen, but now you've got to interface with them, and you've got a big giant goggle on your head, which is going to make it a little more trickier to type certain data into each and every one of those cells. Going back to our old company of the future, sure, maybe when they announced all this, that they were moving into the metaverse, it was going to be this massive increase in their stock price, this new exciting development within this great new tech startup. But eventually, people are just going to be fed up of having to use all this extra tech in the office or at home to commute to the office through the metaverse. And then, for all we know, the company who did all this in the first place is just going to quietly sweep this all under the rug like so many other big tech hype. This all leads to the next point. Knowing what we just discussed, we have to go back to this one question. How does any of this whole metaverse office, actually make the organization any money? Good question. For a while, really wasn't making Meta Facebook any money either. Meta has already moved away from Meta Horizon Worlds and more into AR instead of VR.
This is Orion, Meta's first pair of AR glasses.
And they've already laid off tons of employees within that division. So any plans for this big bullish push into the metaverse is kind of over. It's not really being talked about anymore. All the hype right now is around generative AI, and during Meta Connect, Zuckerberg is talking about how AI is going to be the next big thing and it's going to push Meta forward.
So now you're going to be able to have natural voice conversations with Meta AI across all the major apps. You got, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, Facebook. Hey, are live demos risky?
Live demos can be risky, yes.
Even that's starting to get pushed back by a lot of people. Apple released their new Apple Vision Pro, and even then, that performed under expectations. Just people are not really ready for VR right now. And believe me, VR isn't going away. It's just not going to be something that's going to be mass adapted over people, especially for something like The Office. And the weird thing is that there are still like these startups, these VR, AR startups that are still trying to push for this whole metaverse office. But you don't really hear about them much in the hype cycle.
A startup based in South Korea is offering a cost-effective and sustainable workplace for businesses, the Metaverse.
So we're now in this Soma world, virtual office space.
Welcome, Judy. My name is David from Team Soma, and I'm here to show you around and show you what Soma is all about.
Great.
And it's funny because, like, in order for this technology to work, at least work in a way where they don't need to use Meta Horizon worlds, you're developing your own 3D video game, which once again, you've got to train employees on how to use and how to navigate.
What you see in front of you is what we call the PropTech Tower, and this would be our main business building. So within PropTech Tower, there's 30 floors with numerous offices, and each office is taken up by different companies.
And because it's a video game based around functionality and performance, it's going to be a ugly, stripped down, not a very nice looking metaverse to kind of get your work done in the office. It's going to be low poly, low texture, and just all around pretty ugly and depressing to work in. And yeah, like, of course, VR sets are going to get cheaper. They're going to get more powerful, more user-friendly, but there's no evidence to believe that this is going to be coming from, like, productivity in office environments. It's going to be coming for entertainment and social aspects. And this does seem in line with more of Meta's focus on AR technology, smart glasses, and how they want to move more into that space rather than just the metaverse. And so my last reason as to why the metaverse was never going to happen. By now we've already heard the term return to office, or RTO. No longer do employers want you to sort of work all 5 days from home. Now, more and more employees are being forced to adapt hybrid work structures or perhaps full-on return to the office all 5 days of the week. Evidence has come out of executives using incredibly unethical or forceful tactics to get their employees back into the office. The reasons are kind of complicated, but not really as to why this is happening. But mostly this comes down to just outdated leadership, micromanagement, and good old-fashioned greed. And this is not even diving into the reports about how some employers are hoping that getting rid of remote work will encourage more employees to quit, so they don't gotta pay them severance. Assholes. Like I said, I love VR. I think it's gonna keep getting better. More people are gonna start using it. It's just not gonna be used in this office environment. And to put things in perspective, I spend a lot of time on VR chat, the lame Quest version, of course, but yeah, I love exploring worlds. It's cool to see the different types of avatars and all the creativity, and it shows you how much passion there is for this space. The creative and technical skill here is just incredible. It's kind of a celebration of self-expression through developing new avatars, developing cool spaces for yourself, or even just music and dance. Now, VR chat does have its own set of, like, controversies, but it's a video for another time. But none of that takes away from the fact that the communities who are built there and the culture that's cultivated there is really unique to that space. But that's the thing. VR chat as both the community and as a game is very unmarketable. It's not viable for mass adaptation. It's, as a community, they're hostile to corporate design, and rightfully so. Their avatars that they tend to choose are really over the top. They use particle effects and textures that are intensive to whatever hardware you're using. And here you got Meta trying to create their own version of the metaverse and make it super safe and, you know, somewhere where you can do your job into. And they want to scrape away all the creativity and passion. They just want to force everybody to wear their tech. And now they're trying to really push generative AI onto everybody, even though nobody wants it. And of course, the Metaverse office is not really happening. They're Facebook's moving away from it. They're not really supporting it anymore, and they kind of want you to do more of the augmented reality office. In conclusion, now many of us are being forced back into the office. We have to sit in traffic again, dealing with annoying coworkers and weird office politics. At least now we don't have to do all that with a sweaty, uncomfortable VR headset strapped to our face. Hopefully, newer startups continue to sort of encourage remote work and ensure that all employees have those needs met. They can give remote work options, hybrid options, or full accessibility options to employees that need them so everybody can work as they want to. You don't need to have a whole virtual world for that. Thank you for watching.